When I joined Booktube, my primary goal was to champion Australian books and Australian authors and to find other Australian booktubers. And so part of my method in that is to trawl through the Booktube newbie tag, and as soon as I hear an Australian accent, I'm all over it. So imagine to my delight and surprise when I clicked on Ben Hobson's Booktube newbie tag that A, I heard an Australian accent, B, I saw an articulate, well-presented video, and C, I found out that he is a published author with his debut having been released last year. And when I found out that my local library had a copy of To Become a Whale, I was there with bells on. Hi, I'm Leah, and welcome to Hide and Seek, and welcome to my review of To Become a Whale by Ben Hobson, a beautiful, harrowing, heartbreaking Australian debut, published last year, 2017, by Allen and Unwin. Now, this is a very Australian story. The blurb on the back points us to echoes of Jasper Jones, Craig Silvey, and the novels of Tim Winton. Whereas Silvey and Winton write of the West Australian coast, Ben Hobson transplants us to the late 50s, early 60s in the Noosa, Moreton Bay, Tangalooma region of Queensland. Now, at that time, this area was small fishing, whaling communities, quite rural, quite regional, quite remote. And it tells a beautiful, wonderful story of that time and that place. The story starts with Sam Keogh, a 13-year-old boy who has lost his mother and now must forge a relationship with his primarily absent father. And it is that heartbreaking and heart-wrenching story of two people falling apart after the death of a loved one. Neither the son nor the father are equipped to cope with the challenge of losing their mother. Now, I don't know if it was intentional, but for me, one of the similarities of To Become a Whale was to Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Now, whereas The Road is a post-apocalyptic, very stark novel, throughout the book, the father and the son are referred to as the father and the son. There's no names, no people, no building of that relationship. It is that sense of detachment to the main characters, and we just have the harrowing journey. Here, for about 50% of the relationship between Sam and Walter, the boy and the father remain almost nameless, with always being referred to as the son, the child, the boy, the father, the husband, the man. And it is not until their relationship actually develops and there is some sense of connection between these two otherwise strangers that we are introduced to Sam and Walter as the names of the character. And I found this to be tragic, whereas The Road was all about survival. There was no nurture, there was no sense of kicking in of that mothering maternal instinct. With To Become a Whale, it was about survival as well, and in the first half, as I said, where it was the boy and the father, you could sense it was just an act of survival. But as the boy and the father get to know one another, we hear the names Walter and Sam being introduced, and you see that growth in the relationship between the boy and his father. It doesn't ever move into a loving relationship, but you can see that there is an acceptance of the place in which each person finds themselves. This book has such a human heart to it. The sense of tragic loss, the sense of helplessness, the sense of futility that both Walter and Sam find themselves in permeates the whole story, and I found that to be tragic, yet ultimately hopeful. The last third of the book, where it all falls over, and I won't go into it because it will spoil a rather climactic experience coming through to the end, I found to just be so compelling. And I stayed up later than I should to finish it because I wanted to get to the end. I wanted to find out if there was that happy ending. Now, I won't spoil it, because the journey that we go on to Sam and Walter discovering a way to know one another and experience one another is beautiful and tragic and worth the journey. Now, I will highlight that the descriptions of the whaling community are graphic and violent and uncomfortable and confronting. Now, I don't mind that in a book. It didn't alienate me from the book in the way, say, The Natural Way of Things, Charlotte Wood did, where I found it just graphic and violent but served no purpose. I found here in To Become a Whale that description of the whaling community to be confronting, yet underpinning the sense of helplessness and the sense of loss that both the key characters were experiencing. Now, it's not pleasant to read, but it is valuable to read, and I think that is the difference. I really loved how Ben Hobson created the sense of time and place of the late 50s, early 60s in Australia. That sense of the working man, the mother at home, the sense of the community, the sense of the towns and the styles of the towns, and I felt that to be beautiful. It reminds me of a story that my dad, my family tells, that my dad was 13 in 1961, exactly the same time that Ben was speaking about. And as one of 8 children, my grandfather's idea of getting help for my grandmother was to pay somebody to do it. Men just didn't have anything to do with the rearing of the children. And you could sense that in here. It wasn't patronising, it wasn't gratuitous. It was just the sense that Walter, as the father, had no concept of how to interact with his son. And that wasn't him as a bad father. It was just a sense of his time and place in society. And it was really interesting. I really strongly urge you to go and check out To Become a Whale. It is a great Australian story. I look forward to more from Ben Hobson, both in the novel form, but also here on Booktube. Please go and check out his channel. He just seems like such a great Australian booktuber, and one you need to check out. But if you're looking for a story that is stark, yet beautiful, and full of wonderful Australian societal discussions, then this might just be the book. To Become a Whale by Ben Hobson. Hobson. I've been saying Hudson. Hobson. It is just beautiful. Please, please go and check it out. Have a great day.